support as possible, alumni support as possible, and we do a pretty good job. Our community's been really, really good. They've helped us out each and every year, and it seems like each and every year the support gets better and better. So for us, it's our lifeline,
Yes.
And it gives us the opportunity to buy what we need for the boys and for them to have a first-class high school experience.
Yes, and so part of this is like banner advertisements, because outside of the baseball field, they have good size signs. What are they? 8? Are they 8? What size are they?
They're 4x8. They're right on the outside of our baseball complex, which is located right outside the main entrance to our school. So everyone who comes to our campus on a daily basis has an opportunity to drive by and see our local businesses and our community members supporting us, it's a win-win for everybody. Helps us, helps them, helps the community, helps the school. It's great.
Yeah. So I meant for my husband and I, we're using the handyman. We're getting a quote from the fencing company. If we see them up there, we know they're supporting youth sports, and we're going to support them right back. So that's, in local businesses, supporting youth sports is hugely important for the boys and the girls, but also to your business, because it's not expensive. It's not at all. It's like $500 to get a banner up there, and I can guarantee you those businesses are getting a return on their investment. With hands down. I mean, even if like one of the realtors does. Oh, you know what? She turned the music on me. Well, Coach Bradley, thank you so much for calling in today. And like I said, I'm going to be there on Tuesday and Wednesday, because I know we're going to make it till Wednesday. So thanks again for calling in, and go Bears. Go Bears.
Go Bears. Thank you so much for the support. Truly appreciate all you guys.
All right.
Thank you. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Bad Radio on News Radio, WFLA Orlando.
Can I talk yet?
Yeah. Yes. You may talk.
I get in trouble because I'll start to talk before we're actually at break. So, all right. So I know you guys didn't say too much that time, but that's kind of the way that it rolls.
Sure.
That's like.
I didn't know if it was appropriate to do that. Chime in on that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know.
That's why, you guys are totally allowed to,
So that's called premature vocabulation.
Vocabulation. I like that word. That's a good word.
It is. All right, are we ready to do segment 2? Yeah. Okay. All righty then. Let's do it.
I didn't know what to say. I'm proud of the coach.
Yeah.
State playoffs.
My kids, he just brought Aiden. My son's a sophomore. And Coach Bradley, he's a pitcher, just pulled him up from JV like 2 months ago. And ever since he's gotten on the varsity team, it's just been like balls to the wall. And now we're at state.
Yeah.
And when he puts Aiden in, though, I'm like, I got to go for a walk.
Yeah.
That regional game was one of those games where it's like, we're ahead, we're tied, we're behind, we're ahead again by a lot. They catch up. It was
Just
a
a
nightmare.
roller coaster. Yeah.
All right, stand by on the set, please.
Welcome back to Bad Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back to Bad Radio. This portion of Bad Radio is brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore. If you're ready for a girls' night out, then check out their huge selection of lingerie, shoes, toys, games, love oils, clubwear, and so much more. And we're not going to pay those high prices because we're going directly to the source. 5009 South OPT, or shop online at premiercouples.net, because a couple that plays together stays together. All right, so we are back with the gentleman from Claim Pay. So we have got Paul Soberon and Al Dodd. So welcome back again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had to warn them, though. I was like, our first 2 sponsor reads are like a CBD company, and it's a Premier Couple Superstore.
You're going to be let in by an adult store.
All right, so before we went to break, I got a chance to kind of talk a little bit about what Claim Pay does. So I want to kind of backtrack a little bit, and so I know that we talked about it on break, but Paul, I wanted to get a little bit of background on Claim Pay. There's like this thing right in my face.
I know.
So hang on. I'm not
I'm not
allowed
to moving things.
Okay, sorry. All right. I'm just going to look at you through the thing here.
Look at it one eye at each other.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, how did it get started?
So Claim Pay got started by identifying the need first with the contractors. A lot of them had very good book of business, but they were a receivable rich, cash poor. So they were living almost paycheck by paycheck, and that paycheck was in fact coming from the insurance company, and it wasn't coming on a predictable or reliable basis.
Right.
Instead, it was coming one check here. Let me rip open that envelope, deposit it. I have to pay my suppliers as quickly as possible. They were running into a lot of issues, but when you looked at their accounts receivable, we saw that they had massive balances from very good creditors, because the one thing insurance companies are, they're regulated. And when you're regulated, just like banks, you're required to have certain capital requirements. So we know that check is good. When you're going to cash it, it's as good as it possibly can get. Whereas when you're dealing with a property owner, for example, and you cash a check, you have to be very worried that if you go past 30 days, you don't know if there's going to be actual balances to draw upon when that check gets cashed.
Okay.
So whenever we started working with them, we realized the reason that they had these accounts receivable outstanding was because they were doing work at no direct cost to the property owner. They were charging the insurance company directly. And as a result, their cash flow was stuck to the payment patterns of the insurance companies.
And what do those payment patterns look like? Are we talking 30 days, 90 days, 2 years?
So on average, it can take anywhere between 180 days to a year and a half. So that period of time is very difficult to manage. In particular, the part that becomes most difficult is that they're sporadic. There's no rhyme or reason when that check actually arrives. So what we were able to do was provide them predictable cash flow today so that they could continue doing the work and be able to cover all of their hard costs that are associated with the job that they were performing.
Right. Well, I mean, that's kind of just basic part of business. You do a job, you get paid, you pay your employees.
You're kind of counting on that income.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can see where if like if I were to do my job and not get paid for a year and a half, I mean, that's just not going to work.
Right.
And so that's pretty much what was happening with a lot of these contractors.
Yeah, unfortunately, traditional financing source, if you go to a bank and you tell them this, I don't know when I'm going to get paid, but I know I'm going to get paid. They're going to laugh you out of the room, unfortunately. They're going to say, no, I need to know. Are you going to get paid in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Anything over 90 days, I think it's a bad debt. It's never going to come in.
And what percentage of those, of the insurance companies were extending that long? Like, is it the majority of the jobs that the roofers were dealing with were like this, or was there just a smaller percentage?
I would say the majority of insurance jobs were extending that long.
Okay.
So there was contractors that were going ahead. They were emergency responders, the mitigation companies, for example. Your roof leaks, you have water that's actively coming in.
Yeah.
The services need to be rendered immediately.
Right.
So those companies were used to doing the work at the time that they were called and holding on to that receivable for a period of time.
Right.
The roofers, on the other hand, waited until the insurance company finally cut a check to replace the roof. However, during all of this period, the homeowner is sitting in a very precarious situation where they have a compromised roof that they're sleeping under every single day, waiting for that check to arrive. So what we helped was design a system for the contractor to go ahead, replace that roof now, provide that service to the homeowner so that they can sleep well at night.
Right.
And we can help them wait until the insurance company finally cuts the check.
Oh, that's super valuable because, excuse me, I'm sure the homeowner, like dealing with these different roofers, if they might just associate like this bad experience with that roofing company, not necessarily be like understanding that they're waiting for XYZ that's out of their control. So you're helping the roofing company have.
Well, I mean, there's just like the thing is there's so many things that homeowners don't understand.
Right.
From the insurance companies to the legal standpoint to companies like CleanPay, because you guys work primarily directly with the contractors. You don't really see it's all B2B stuff. You're not really dealing with individual homeowners.
Right. There's a couple of different environments that come into play as well. You have daily claims work, which is fires, dishwasher overflowing, things of that nature. But when you get into a storm like the hurricanes that come through, there's a massive amount of claims that go into the process. So when you look around Central Florida and South Florida and you see all the tarps on the roof, there's a couple of factors that are going on. The insurance company will send a first check out to get the work started. When a contractor has hundreds of claims, they go into debt millions of dollars. They can't float that. So the reason you're seeing so many tarps a year after a storm is because the insurance company still hasn't sent enough funds for the contractor even to truly begin the work, and we bridge that gap for the contractor and the policyholder, and then we will wait for the money.
What year did ClaimPay get started? Were you around for the 2004 storms?
So the predecessor of ClaimPay has been operating since 2016, but ClaimPay itself, the way it's formed today with institutional backing, began in business at the beginning of 2021.
Okay, so that's fairly new. But like in 2004, were you guys? I mean, I don't know in your background, but were you in Florida in 2004?
I was in Florida in high school then, so I remember the rainy days from those storms.
Right.
But I wasn't directly impacted.
So here in Central Florida in 2004, we got hit with 3 huge storms back to back. I know because I had just had my daughter. She was 6 days old when Charlie hit. And I was at home making chocolate chip cookies. And it was Charlie, then I can't remember the other 2, but all within 3 months. And it was blue tarps for days, for years and years.
That's what you see.
It was emergency. I mean, it was the most bizarre thing. It was like after war kind of thing where you weren't really sure where you're going to get the water, where you're going to get power, where you're going to get food. Because some places were just leveled because not only did they have these 3 hurricanes, but like with Charlie, it spawned tornadoes. So places had gotten leveled with the tornadoes.
Wow.
And it was bizarre. Were you here for the 2004
No,
storms?
I missed all that.
Yeah.
It's very disheartening when that happens.
Yeah.
And so among the factors with groceries and food and lodging, you've also got material issues. Contractors can't get the materials in at the volume that they need them to get them in.
Yeah, no, I think that, there's a supply. There's so many different moving parts to what you guys are doing. And just talking to you for this short amount of time has just got my head spinning. But you know what? We're going to talk about that when we get back from break because she's got the music going and she didn't make me jump out of my seat today.
Well,
So
there's still so much time. You're listening to Bad Radio. Go to BaaDRadio.com to learn how you can network too.
she likes to do this thing like at the 30-second mark. She'll blast, put it on really loud, and I'm jumpy. So, no, honestly, like I said, now that I think about it, I'm like, you guys.
Well, the reason we brought, we can discuss that, I guess, when we're live. The reason we brought Al on board was his experience dealing with Hurricane Ida, which occurred in 2021.
Yeah.
And they still have issues. These blue tarps are still there 2 years later. There's a lot of homes that have haven't been repaired. And Florida, fortunately, for a lot of the people who live here, are relatively better off and maybe can afford to pay for their roof out of pocket and then wait for the insurance company to reimburse them.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a lot of communities in Louisiana that don't have that.
No, yeah, for sure.
I worked for the insurance companies for many years as an adjuster, and then I had a public adjusting firm as well. And I experienced it on all ends from that aspect of it.
That you have.
So now it's good to be a part of the solution.
So you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, huh?
I've seen it all. I've seen how the carriers would instruct me to mitigate, which means lessen the extent of the damage, which means write a smaller check.
Have you seen some of the YouTube videos that Attorney Stephen Bush has put together?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just blown away.
Yeah. Yeah. Steve's a friend of mine.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
It's powerful.
It's sad.
It's sickening, actually.
Yeah.
To be quite frank.
Well,
It's criminal.
Imagine if you're going through a medical procedure and the doctor tells you, I don't think we need to do this x-ray. We don't need to do this MRI because I don't want to pay for the surgery.
Do you mind if we talk about that on the air? I just, like I said, I don't.
Yeah.
I know that
Yeah.
there's
Hold it.
Yeah. Well, it's lots of times,
Okay.
it's like I don't understand everything inside and out, so I just want to make sure that everything has got a very good light on it.
Yeah.
That All right, ready when you are.
Oh, okay.
Oh, stop.
Welcome back to Bad Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back to Bad Radio, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Forge IT Consulting, providing a fully outsourced IT department with a personal touch for small businesses. No company is too small. forgeitconsulting.com. So welcome back again, and we are here with Paul Soberon and Al Dodd with Claim Pay. So before the break, we were talking about many different things of what Claim Pay does, and so we brought up like the hurricanes from 2004, and because as I don't know, I know a lot of our listening audience is going to remember that, but what I was curious about is some of the companies that you guys work with. Now, I'm understanding the contractors, I'm understanding the roofers, and I'm understanding the remediation companies. But what about the first responders? What about the tree companies that come out and clean up? Is that stuff covered by insurance as well?
So the short answer is yes. There's supplemental coverages for debris removal, which means under the insurance policy, they're going to pay up and beyond what your coverages are for the debris removal. Whereas most people don't know that. And when you see, the common person sees a tree removal is only covered for $2,500, $5,000, you got 8 trees knocked over, you're never going to find a quote that's going to be covered by that.
Right.
But little do most people don't realize that that's actually in addition to your coverages.
Yeah.
So you actually buy that supplemental coverage.
Okay.
So a lot of folks don't realize that debris removal is covered for the most part.
Okay, so you work with I guess the best thing to do right now is to kind of give me a laundry list of the different types of contractors that you work with or companies that you work with.
Yeah, so we work with tree removal services.
Okay. So that would be a good referral source for you.
It's a very good start to the claim.
Okay.
Because they're the first responders. So they're the ones on the ground that identify at ground zero, basically, because the first thing you want to do as a homeowner is remove that obstruction that's on your home, which can be quite dangerous if it fell on the home.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing is that tree company, they'll be on the ground. They're not going to have the dry out equipment now that you have water that's actively coming into the property. So they're going to refer that business most likely to a mitigation company.
Is that the same as a restoration company, right? Mitigation, restoration?
You want to
Mitigation is going to do the bag and tag aspect of it. They're going to come out. They're going to remove the water. They're going to cut the walls out. They're going to remove the insulation, the carpet pad. They're going to dry the house out.
Okay.
They're also going to potentially tarp the roof, things of that nature. So they're the first responders that are going to come out and secure the dwelling, because in your insurance policy you have 4 requirements as a policyholder. One of them is to mitigate the damage immediately. The second is to report the loss. The third is to make the property available. And the fourth is to allow the insurance company to perform their investigation of the damages that are covered on the home.
Make the property available to what?
For the insurance company to come out
okay.
and inspect
I
the
gotcha.
property.
Okay. All right. Are you supposed to, because I was told by an adjuster once that the first thing that you were supposed to do before everybody's like, first thing you do is call your insurance company, right? But like technically the proper thing to do is get it assessed first yourself. Is that right?
The first thing is to take cover, right? If you're in a very dangerous situation, you want to take cover. But after that, you're under no obligation to call the insurance company first.
Right. Why do you think that they started that? Because everybody's like, call your insurance company. Like, that's the first thing you do.
To lessen the extent of the damage to the policyholder.
Right.
Insurance companies are for-profit organizations. They're not 501(c) charities.
Yeah.
They have shareholders. Their job is to come out and get the job done for as little as you will accept. So my advice would be to call a competent contractor who can handle the job, let him assess it, let him mitigate it, let him valuate it, which means put a proper number on it, and then contact the insurance company as quickly as you can. You do have up to 2 years to file a claim on property loss.
Is that the new laws, or I mean, what was
There's
it before?
different laws in different areas. So Al comes from Louisiana. So right now we're currently operating in Florida, Louisiana, and in the process of expanding to Texas and California in the next 60 days.
Okay,
following
that's
by
fast.
Colorado. But the requirements are different on a state-by-state basis. But for Florida, they recently changed those requirements. So I don't want to dive into those issues because it's beyond what I would advise folks on. But generally speaking, you do have 2 years to file that claim. But more importantly, folks, to answer your question directly, why do they call the insurance company? Because that's the only way you're going to start the cash These contractors that are coming in, they're going to need to get paid that are going to be doing the work. And the only way to start that process is by opening up the claim or paying for it out of pocket, then opening up the claim.
What about contacting an attorney who works on
Or a public adjuster.
And they can all help open that claim.
Right. Well, because I think that what the problem is that people trust their insurance companies. That's where I think the biggest problem is you're in good hands. Yeah, BS. That's the way I look at it. Because I think that's what I believe that that's what Floridians. I focus on Floridians, but obviously is that homeowners are completely naive to the way that things really work. They buy their insurance policy. They think that the insurance policy is going to protect them. They think the insurance company's on their side. But what they really have to understand is that they're not.
You know, I have never seen in 20 years of being in the insurance restoration industry an insurance company properly come out and assess the value of a loss and include International Roofing Code, International Building Code, OSHA requirements, IICRC, which is mitigation requirements on the first pass. They always have to be forced to do that. At the end of the day, they pay those fees. They pay those amounts if you have a competent contractor and you do have an attorney involved.
So you would advise people to, before calling the insurance company, to call a contractor, to call somebody that is experienced.
I would absolutely recommend they call somebody with experience, because as long as you're paying your premium to the carrier, you're in black ink, so to speak, on their general ledger. You're an asset. Once you file a claim, you become an adversary.
Yeah, that's frightening. This leads me to AOBs, assignment of benefits, because I've been a believer of assignment of benefits. I've never been burned by one because I've been very careful about the companies I've decided to work with. But according to Senate Bill 2A, if I'm correct, AOBs or assignment of benefits are no longer allowed, correct?
They're no longer allowed on policies issued in 2023.
Right. I think it was like December 16th of 2020.
Yeah, around there, yes.
So how does that affect claim pay? Because just really quick, I'm going to let you guys explain what an assignment of benefit is, because I know you'll do a better job than me. So which one you guys want to have that go?
I can explain.
Okay.
So assignment of benefit is actually an instrument that's used across the United States. It's widely accepted, and most folks come across assignment of benefits when they go to CVS and they get their prescription filled. The first thing that CVS asks is, can I see your insurance card?
Right.
And you say, sure. Yes, that's why I pay these very expensive premiums. Here's my card. Go ahead, run it. And they run it to verify that you have coverage. Once they identify you have coverage, they'll go ahead and fill your prescription, and they're only going to charge you your copay or deductible.
Right.
And that's the amount that you pay out of pocket for that prescription. Even the back of your card says, if for this type of drug, you're going to pay, your maximum you're ever going to pay is $25, $50, $75, whatever the case may be. So that what you're allowing that pharmacy to do when you sign this paperwork is to go ahead and bill your insurance company. Now, if it comes back, which it happens less than 1% of the time, that for whatever reason, whoever rang up your insurance card, they got it wrong and they didn't verify the coverage correctly. At that point in time, CVS may be calling you back and saying, hey, I got declined.
Yeah.
Do you have another card? And then you realize, oh, shoot, I gave you the one from last year.
Actually, I want to continue this conversation. So I'm very interested in this, the way that you're putting this in regards to the explanation. So you guys stay tuned. When we get back, we're going to continue our conversation about assignment of benefits. So stay tuned.
I'm going to stay tuned, too. Sounds very exciting. Won't you meet me there?
Actually, I really do like what you're saying, because it makes, like, the way that you're saying it makes a lot of sense.
It's like talking to a couple actuaries, right? It's about as exciting as talking to a death benefits advisor.
I think it's fascinating, to be honest
it's very
with
important information. Usually you learn it after you've had a terrible experience.
I know. No, it's true. I mean, the people that pay attention to the show are the people, the kind of comments that I get is that this has been very informative. I've learned a lot. You know what I mean? Things like that. So.
I'd like to talk on that. We've funded 75,000 claims. We have over 200 contractors that operate in Florida that utilize our services. We fund about $3 million a week. We could touch on that.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to finish this conversation.
We'll finish it because it's important. The
That's
law
a very
changed.
good
The law
analogy.
changed in 2019, and they made it pretty good, I thought, in 2019. The contractor doesn't show up to do the work, well, they shouldn't hold on to your assignment of benefit for 3 years. You know, there was a rescission period that was implemented. But now they just went completely on the other side by eliminating it.
Yeah, and then like I said, assignment of benefits got such a bad rap, but I don't really know why. I mean, I think it's because
Shady out-of-state contractors would come in, and terminology in the industry is they'd come in, they'd do an AOB, and they'd scoop the check and disappear. That's what caused a dent in the AOB perception in the community.
Well, 1 out of 1,000.
is that what? Because I'm like, did that happen a lot?
Very rare, but it does happen. And actually, the insurance companies could care less if they run off with the money. The percentage of contractors that actually see jail time for stealing revenue is very, very low.
Can we talk? I want to talk about that too.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that for me?
Is this segment 4?
Yes. Why, yes, it is.
Welcome back to Bad Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back, and this portion of Bad Radio is brought to you by Ground Up Property Services. With rainy season right around the corner, you should ask about the water sensor so your lawn does not get too much water. And if you're buying a house, this is good information for realtors as well. Ask about the irrigation system inspection, and don't forget about the lawn painting service. If you're planning an outdoor event and you want to hide those brown spots on the lawn, call 407-468-4295. You can also reach Ground Up Property Services at groundupinc.net. So we are here with Paul Soberon and Al Dodd with Claim Pay. And before break, we were talking about assignment of benefits. And actually, Paul was putting together a really good analogy, which I was finding fascinating. So I'd really like for you to continue on with that, because I've never really put that sort of correlation together, is that you're putting it in a situation where, like, you're in a different situation, but it's still the same fundamental idea with your insurance card.
So what I was saying, and when you go to a pharmacy, the pharmacist and CVS, they'll go and they'll deal with your insurance company to collect
So that
now
you
the
don't
amount
have to.
owed, so you don't have to, or worse, so you don't have to pay for it and then get the reimbursement from the insurance company.
Right.
That's what's currently the insurance company would love to happen, because at that point in time, they're going to put you in a position where you're going to go for the cheaper route, the route that you can afford, as opposed to the route of what your property looked like before the storm occurred, which is what the policy covers if it's a replacement cost.
The truth is that most homeowners, I wouldn't say most, a good chunk of the homeowners don't have the money to pay to make it look like it used to.
Exactly, and that's what the AOB offered, was optionality. Nobody was requiring the homeowners to use a contractor with an AOB. It gave you an option to use a contractor under an AOB. So now what the insurance companies knew is, with an AOB, they were going to have to provide significantly more value on a claim to their insured, to their client, as a result of using an AOB than they do without an AOB. Because think of how many folks can actually afford to repair their home out of their own pocket and submit for reimbursement from the insurance company. Very few.
Very few. And then on top of that, having a contractor, they know the cost of goods. They know the lingo. They know the tricks that the insurance companies have up their sleeve, and they know how to counter that. Homeowners don't. I was terrified. I had to get a new roof because I had a roof leak. And the roofer came over, and is somebody that I trusted. And so, we did end up signing an AOB, but he sat with me, like, when I was calling the insurance guy, I was calling State Farm. I was so scared that I was going to say the wrong thing. He's like, make sure you don't say this. Make sure you don't say this. They're going to ask you this. Make sure, you know what I mean? And I'm like shaking, going, if I say the wrong thing, all of a sudden, they're not going to cover it.
You're going to be paying.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to have a professional involved on this, because this is a contract. They call it a policy. It's a contract in the state of Florida and state of Louisiana and all over the nation. And that policy is being investigated by a carrier representative, and the questions that they're asking you are in an attempt typically to find a loss that's not covered.
Yeah.
So having an attorney, a PA, a contractor speaking on your behalf is going to make sure that it falls within the policy guidelines and boundaries if, in fact, it is a covered loss.
So now that this is not, let's backtrack a little bit. So we were talking about assignment of benefits. So I had mentioned that assignment of benefits have got a bad rap. So people had a negative idea about them. They're like, oh, AOB, you're going to get ripped off. Where did that stem from?
Every once in a while, an out-of-state contractor who's not licensed to operate in the state will come in to the state of Florida or somewhere else. And Florida has a lot of protective measures. One is the changing of that ruling. But they'll come into the state and they will take your ACV check, which is your actual cash value check. It's the check that we consider what gets you started on the indemnification of your property, the work on the home, and they will disappear. They'll go and they'll steal 50, 100 checks, $1 million, $2 million, and they'll disappear. And it's very disheartening because the insurance company at that point, when the policyholder files a complaint, they will come out, they will interview and record the conversation with the policyholder. And as long as that check has moved from the policyholder into the hands of that contractor that's disappeared, the insurance company will literally walk away and wash their hands. They could care less.
Because you signed it over. I mean,
So a handful of contractors caused a massive amount of damage when they came in and stole from policyholders.
I know that because of the storms in Florida, we do get, when we have storms, we have a lot of outside the state contractors that come in and solicit to homeowners. And a lot of people are in desperation. Like you said, we've got the tarps on the roof and we've got things leaking. And so I don't know what that looks like now. But I know that it used to, like I said, it was a big deal. Like when Ian hit, my house flooded, which totally sucked. It was my sunken living room. It filled up with water, but it came from the ground. I didn't have flood insurance, so I had to pay for all that out of pocket. But I don't really know if we had the influx of contractors.
Not this
that came
time.
in.
The state's gotten very difficult for out-of-state contractors to operate.
And what I will say is that it's very rare that occurs. And just like anybody else you'll see, and I hate to go back to it, but like a doctor. If you find a doctor that you get along with, you keep going to him.
Yeah.
And has great bedside manner, you're probably going to trust them to solve your problems. So do your diligence on your contractor. I don't think there's any substitute for becoming comfortable with the contractor you're going to work with than the property owner personally speaking to them and making sure that they build a good rapport with whoever's servicing them.
Right.
And I think what could happen is in a moment of desperation, you may get 1 out of 1,000. The percentages are probably even lower than that may abuse the protections that are embedded. But I will say in 2019, the law became very technical in AOBs. And the contractors had to follow the law to the teat in order to be able to qualify for the benefits. They had to do A, B, C, and D. And if you did it, the contract was null and void. Those out-of-state contractors disappeared after that.
Oh, okay.
They were gone. They couldn't follow that law. Or certainly they weren't backed by us anymore because at that point we knew that they were destined likely to fail because you had to submit, for example, your AOB to the carrier within 3 days. There were certain things that needed to take place. So it would be very difficult for an unscrupulous contractor to now stay in business doing these kind of actions that Al mentioned.
Right.
Under the post-2019 landscape.
I'm very curious about how the assignment of benefits, the changes have affected claim pay and how you guys do business.
So for us, it forced us to look at different avenues to work with contractors because the best way and the best value, which is ultimately what we were after, was making sure the property owner would receive the services that they signed up for. And the best way to do that was the AOB. And take away that whole burden of going through the claim process, shift it to the contractor was ultimately the best experience.
Right.
So the AOB was wonderful.
I
And
agree.
we stood behind the AOB 1,000%. But we had to accommodate, beginning with May of 2022, when the law changed, we had to evaluate the business differently. because at that point in time, they stripped away the right to attorney fees with AOBs.
Right.
So they began making AOBs less attractive for the contractors, what they did, to ultimately.
Because like you said,
they
it made
banned
it harder for them to. Like I said, it was very rigid.
It was very rigid. So Florida had some of the best laws across the country in dealing with property claims, because you could afford representation, such as attorneys, and not pay for it out of pocket that the insurance company would have to pay in case you prevailed. So what we did is we adapted our model to empower contractors to work directly with the customers in a different fashion. But we're still able to offer all of our services to this date. We never slowed down. There was a period about 4 weeks where contractors had to move away from AOBs. But at this point in time, that process has been fully implemented, and we're moving at 100% speed.
Okay. That's fascinating. It's also really, you have to give you guys a lot of kudos for that, because that's a pretty big adjustment. And if you guys are used to doing business a certain way, then all of a sudden they're like, poof, that way is all gone. And you have to make those adjustments and then realign. I mean, you're still fundamentally doing the same business with just under different guidelines, correct?
That's right.
That's correct.
So,
We shifted.
yeah.
The problem was more on the contractor. They had to evaluate and partner with other firms that were providing services in order to be viable.
Very cool. Well, she said 1 minute, but she started playing the music, so she got me all confused, right?
Just kidding.
I've been at the end of the show. Well, anyway, so we still have a whole hour to talk about this, but when we come back, it's gonna be the top of the second hour. I really wanted to dive into ClaimPay as a business, where you guys have been, where you guys are now, and where you're looking to go for in the future, because I think that, like I said, this is amazing information for homeowners, contractors, and I meant just the state in general, and then obviously other states. So everybody stay tuned, because when we get back, we're going to dive in deeper with ClaimPay.
You know, that sounds like a lot of fun. The guys with their spreadsheets and their business plans. It'll be good. It will. This is Bad Radio. Be right back.
That jazzy little music you got there, girl.
Yeah.
All right.
That would be Atomic Dog by George Clinton and P-Funk.
Saw them at the Fillmore. Great show.
Smelled good in there, didn't it?
That guy's about 114 years old, man. No comment.
blue button do?
I don't know. I've never hit it.
It's a mute. Well,
That's what I
really,
figured. It was a mute button.
it's
The
a
thing's going
dumb
here.
button. Actually, the mute button is behind her microphone.
Does Bud do his show live?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because a lot of the shows, like with this show, used to be live. Like, so you say it, it goes out. There's a 7-second delay, and so if something happened, like an F-bomb or whatever was done, she could dump it. But the problem is like lots of times people would cuss, and then they would follow it up with a cuss, like, damn, oh damn, or damn, you can say on the air, but you know what I mean. And that second one you couldn't catch because you have to have that 7 seconds to come back. So, all right, we are going to mute our
Okay. Just setting up for the second hour of the show.
So you guys totally forgot you were being recorded, huh? Hi, everybody.
Haha. Yep. Even on your Bad Radio Facebook group page. I checked, make sure everything was going the way it was supposed to.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a rough start, but then I figured someone had pushed some buttons they shouldn't have.
Was that, huh?
Huh?
Me?
No.
Oh.
Someone messed with my iPad, turned a few things off. So I had to chase down that one. Fixed it though, 'cause that's what I do.
How are you guys doing? Good? Are you having fun?
Yeah, it's just fun. We love talking about our nerd stuff.
Nerd stuff.
I love this stuff too. I
Yeah.
love understanding how businesses work from the inside and from the back end, the front end, all of it. There's so many businesses out there that I just never even remotely understood existed.
Basically, the policy says covered loss, damages, incurred expenses, and indemnification. And we come in and we absorb the invoices. And then at the end, when it all washes out, We collect ours, and everyone else collects theirs.
Cool.
And we'll wait years for it,
And fight
like a
for it, too,
contractor
right?
can, and we will help assist fight for it.
All right, stand by. Beginning of hour number 2. Here we go.
You're listening to Radio Cosmos.
All night long.
Bravo! My compliments, little lady.
Break for 30 seconds.
You're now listening to Bad Radio.
Well, welcome back as we launch into our second hour of Bad Radio. I'm going to run through all of the regular info for those of you who might just joined us. I am your host, Angela Smerito. And in studio, we have our producer, Melissa Fox.
Hello.
Ooh, I like that.
Mysterious.
Echoes that.
We also have Melissa Jacob with Striking Brand.
Hello, hello.
Melissa's been doing all of our videos for Bad Radio, which you can see on BaaDRadio.com. So she does all the YouTube videos. But then she also has her website, which is StrikingBrand.com. So you can go there and you can see all of her other work because she's a videographer as well as a photographer. And in studio with us today, we have Paul Soberon, who's the Chief Operating Officer for ClaimPay, as well as Al Dodd, who's the Business Development Director. So we've been talking for the last hour about ClaimPay and AOBs, mostly AOBs. But so what I really want to do is talk a little bit more about ClaimPay, the business itself. So you talked. I asked you earlier in the show to give kind of an overview of what ClaimPay is, and during the break, Al, you had talked to me a little bit about, you started to talk about some numbers. So so tell me what it was that you wanted to talk about.
I want to let people out there understand that we're not a startup. We've funded 75,000 claims since we've opened the doors. We work with over 200 contractors in the state of Florida. We fund about $3 million a week, and we're growing every day. And we bridge the gap between the contractor and the insurance company so that they can do the work, get funded, and move on to the next project. And we will wait for the receivables to come in from the insurance company as long as it takes.
Okay.
So you said before the average was it was up to like a year and a half. Was that right? When you usually they would get the income?
Yeah. So
from the insurance company?
what I'll say is, I'll give you an example. To this day, we're still funding claims from 2017 Irma. Just
Wow.
imagine that. That
Right.
claim has gone unpaid with the damages.
Right.
Why
So-
though? I don't understand why.
So I guess the short answer is
Insurance
something-
companies suck.
They don't want to pay?
they're trying to minimize their losses.
Right.
The long answer is it was a catastrophic storm. It does take time for the community to fully recover from the storm. So what we see as being probably a 5 to 7 year until you won't even recognize that a hurricane actually hit that area. We want to truncate that or shorten it to 2 years. I mean, that's what we would love to do, is to shorten the period of time it takes for our communities to look like it did prior to the storm hitting. What we're aware is that even though we have close to $1 billion committed to us, that's just a fraction of the damages that were suffered. But with our target on residential and small commercial, we think that we can make the most impact with our funds in the community that way.
That's a good lead in. So you do primarily work with contractors or work with residential buildings versus
Absolutely.
small commercial.
Actually, we fund in Louisiana, we're funding FEMA claims, National Flood Insurance Program claims, municipal and civil claims.
So wait. So you said FEMA claims. So you're working with FEMA to explain to me that.
Well, when a governmental facility sits with FEMA and discusses the damage of their property, FEMA will come up with an obligation to a dollar amount. A dollar amount's going to take years for them to actually deliver on their obligation. We'll step in and we'll fund these projects millions of dollars so that the contractors can get the work done and move on, and then we'll wait on the obligation from FEMA.
Really?
Correct.
That's very interesting.
We understand that insurance money is good. We understand that government money and FEMA money is good as well.
Yeah,
So
but that takes a long
FEMA,
time.
you can think of it as insurance of last resort almost.
Mhm.
It's the gap insurance. So it's
Mhm.
for those after you've exhausted your wind coverage, your flood coverage, you then have the possibility of applying for government assistance.
Mhm.
And the government assistance is predicated upon finding contractors that can float the cost of the job and submit the invoice for reimbursement. What happens is a lot of smaller contractors don't have the
They don't.
capability
Yeah.
from a cash perspective to be able to float that, in addition to the other work that they do that keeps the lights on.
Mhm.
So that's where we can make a big impact.
And so, how do we get you in front of those? I mean, like you said, what are some of the things that you do to grow claim pay? Your role is to
all
grow.
you have, yeah, my role is to grow.
Mhm.
All you have to do if you're a policyholder and you fall within the guidelines that we're speaking about is just go to claimpay.net.
Mhm.
Contact us at claimpay.net, and Paul or I will reach out to you, or one of our team members, and we'll get the ball rolling for you. We'll even align you with contractors that we understand are quality contractors that have gone through a rigorous background check to be a part of our process. So if all hope is lost, if you feel you've had an unfair denial, if you think the claim's been underpaid, reach out. Have your contractor reach out to us. And just
Really?
begin a conversation. That's simple. Claimpay.net.
So, okay, so right now you're talking to me like you're talking to a homeowner.
Mhm.
That's something that you guys are interested in.
Homeowners and commercial properties.
So what we would suggest is first, our core product is business to business.
Mhm.
Yes.
And what we would suggest is contractors, whenever you find a property that has damage, think in your head there's more than one avenue for me to be able to fix this home.
Mhm.
Start asking the questions. When did you notice this damage occurred? And it may be that it's attributable to a storm that happened recently. And as a result, if the property owner has insurance, insurance should cover it. And the
Right.
fact that the what's now a policyholder or the insured doesn't have the cash to pay you today in order to get the property fixed, there are other options, which is when they would contact us. Or if you're a contractor that's already doing insurance work, but you're focused on residential, it may be very possible that you come across claims that you pass up because they're just too big. You can't handle a commercial project. There's a lot of complexities that are beyond getting paid that we help contractors tackle. And that's part of the value add that you have when working with us is we know what's the best in class.
Okay.
We know how to manage these large projects. And we have the expertise internally to be able to help you or refer you to somebody that can help you.
Right.
So whether that's from an estimating perspective or whether that's from a technical perspective that you need an engineer to even help you ascertain if this loss is attributable to an insurable event, those are all things that we can connect folks in our network. So we
Nice.
currently have, like Al said, 200
200,
contractors
yeah.
that we fund. But just think each one of those 200 contractors, they work with about 5 other sources that are very close to them. So our network right there is about 1,000. And then you add all the different folks that we come across on a daily basis. So whenever a contractor contacts us, they're now joining a network of qualified insurance professionals that are going to help you succeed because our product is predicated upon collection of these invoices.
Right.
We only win when the contractor wins. So for us, it's very important that we all win. And the only way we're going to win is by empowering our contractors with the best engineers, the best estimators, the best attorneys, so that we can be in a position to collect fully on these invoices.
I also want to add that we do not provide loans. There's no interest. There's no personal guarantees. We have minimum requirements to be part of our program, but a lot of contractors think their only route is getting material, loans, and lines of credit, things of that nature. None of that's happening with us. Join us as a contractor, residential or commercial, and we will help fund the project for you. And like I said, the line of credit for us is the carrier.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the line of credit is the carrier. I want to figure out more what that means.
If it's an insurance claim,
right.
we trust the insurance company's going to pay
Because they have to.
because they have to.
Right. Okay. Well, I want to walk through a whole scenario when we get back because, I mean, I understand everything that you guys are saying, but I'm really curious what it looks like from a contractor's point of view. So stay tuned. When we get back, we're going to have more with Claim Pay.
You're listening to Bad Radio. Want a network? Go to BaaDRadio.com.
Cool. No, that's really good. That was a good segment. Are you liking this?
Yeah.
It's really interesting,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, learning a lot. This is so far from what I do day to day. So.
Quickly, once we get this started, I have to go let a glass man in and show him where he's got to go, and then I'll be back.
Okay.
Less
We're going to
than
miss you.
I'm going to miss this too, but you know me, they got me multitasking.
Melissa has her own show, too.
Yeah.
It's on Saturdays or Sundays?
It's all over on everywhere from Thursday night all the way through the wee hours of Sunday morning.
You're more popular than I am.
Stop. It's a I've been doing this since 1981, darling.
I have not.
Yeah. But it's a statewide syndicated show called the Florida Roundtable where I can make people laugh, my guests, when I say things about poop in a box when they're on to talk about colorectal cancer screenings. I can get any of them to laugh, which is fun.
So Charlie hit Orlando as well?
Charlie?
Yeah.
Or were you living on the West Coast at the time?
No, I was here. I was
Straight across Orlando,
I
man.
lived in Winter Park, and it was so bizarre because, like I said, Anna was 6 days old, and we were watching a movie, so I wasn't watching the local news. And I don't know if you guys have kids, but when your kid's home from the hospital, you're like on a different planet. She was our first, and my mom called, and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm great. Everything's great. We're watching Hellboy. Got cookies, you know." And she's like, "You're about to get hit by a hurricane." And I was like, "What?" And a tornado took out a tornado split our oak tree, and I mean, it was just like, but it's fast.
Yeah.
All right, stand by. Here we go. This would be the second segment of the second hour.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Welcome back to Bad Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
And this portion of Bad Radio is brought to you by Rachel Roach Realty, a Coldwell Banker Realtor. With a sea of realtors out there, choose one that thinks about you first and not their commission. 407-252-4566. We are back with Paul and Al with Claim Pay. And so before the break, I said that I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to kind of run through the whole scenario because I am just like one of those people that I always want to understand like the intricates.
And hear a real life example.
I'm nosy too.
I want to know all the things.
But I think that a lot of the reasons is that I love networking and I love passing referrals. It's and so when I truly understand how something works, that's how I truly am able to pass referrals the way that they should be passed. Because lots of times you don't know of an opportunity unless you ask a lot of questions. And so let's just say, okay, Melissa and I you want to be a roofer or do you want to be a remediation company?
Ooh, I'll be a roofer.
Okay, we're roofers then. We look like a couple of roofers, right?
Obviously.
But we're small. You know what I mean? We're not a big roofing company, but we come across a contract. You know, we have an opportunity to fix, let's say, a small business. But again, it's outside of our wheelhouse. But we want the business, right? So this is a situation where you'd be like, okay, let's partner, right? So let's walk it through it. You have to check us out, right?
Yeah. So the first thing that the contractors that we work with, the roofers, you would go and when you would step on foot to the property, after performing your inspection of the roof and assuming that you saw damages, because it's all predicated on there being damages. If there's no damages, there's nothing to do here.
Right.
So assuming that there's damages, you would then ask for a policy. Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner, can I see your policy? And you would first look at whether or not it's an insurance company that's in business, meaning are they actively writing? They're not in FIGA, because that's a big problem right now.
Really?
Of the insurance companies that are going under. You want to make sure as a contractor, you're focusing your efforts on the insurance companies that are solvent.
Okay, so are there people that think they're insured, but their insurance company's gone out of business?
It's a whole, I think we would need another 2 hours to talk about that. But yes, to answer your question, there are insurance companies that are now controlled by what's called FIGA, which is the entity that controls bankrupt insurance companies. And you have to follow a very different process in order to get paid your policy benefits. So UPC was probably the biggest one that impacted the Hurricane Ian victims.
Okay. All right, I understand that. So I have Florida Peninsula.
So Florida Peninsula.
Yeah.
So you see the Florida Peninsula, you make sure that you're talking to the property owner because you always want to doing business with the actual named policyholder. You would then, at this point, based on your professional opinion, you would advise the property owner that, hey, you have damage on your roof, and I believe the cause is this storm that you just called me about.
Okay.
At that point, the claim would be submitted to the insurance company. You would be assigned, the homeowner would be assigned a claim number. You would get that claim number and the policy number for your internal tracking records along with the policy. You would make a copy of it. And you would then estimate what are the damages going to cost to repair.
But even before that, like I said, if it was a job that I knew was a little bit bigger, we could still reach out to Claim Pay and
absolutely.
start that.
Absolutely.
Because you guys have assets that I'm not going to have.
If it's outside of your authority or your license amount, we can partner with you with a commercial general contractor or someone else to see that work forward for you.
So I go online, I fill out an application.
It's a very simple form. You just fill out a little bit of information, and we'll reach out to you within 24 hours. And somebody will be assigned to your situation, and we'll begin the conversation. So if it's out of your lane, so to speak, then you can reach out to us. We can contact a commercial general contractor. He can come out, partner with you in whatever way serves both of y'all. That's independent on y'all's agreement to that. And then he will get with us. He'll put a estimate together. We like to call it valuation.
Is like help with like that whole estimating process.
Yes, and he'll come out. He'll put the estimate together. Get with us. If the client needs legal representation for whatever reason, then we will. If you have an attorney, that's great. If not, then we can recommend an attorney for you to deal with that understands this process. And from that point, the attorney will reach out to the insurance company and notify them that they have legal representation. And then you simply begin the work on the proper valuation of the damages. And as that contractor is submitting invoices to us for incurred expenses, we will reimburse their invoices, typically in 72 hours or not.
Really?
Yes.
That's really quick.
So what we'll do is we have our own underwriters. We'll review the same documentation that the contractor collected on the front end, which was the policy, the claim, the policy number, and the estimate. And we'll review it to see if it falls within the lines of what's covered under the policy. We'll make our own independent decision on whether or not this is a claim that's going to ultimately be paid by the insurance company. So when you're working with us for the contractor, you now have two sets of eyes. You have your own set of eyes that's reviewing to see if there's a good job. You have our set of eyes as well that's going to help you determine whether or not to move forward on constructing.
Right.
And once it gets built, you submit the invoice to the insured, who then in turn submits it to the carrier, or they submit it to their attorney if they're being represented by one, that then submits it to the carrier. And at that point in time, we reimburse that cost so that they can go ahead and move on to the next job and the next job. Because what happens with contractors is there's a bandwidth issue of how many jobs you can take on with your own cash.
Right.
Or worse, from a policyholder's benefit perspective, you'll just have to wait until the check gets cut by the insurance company.
To purchase supplies.
Which
or
could
whatever.
take, like we said, on the short end, could take 6 months. On the long end, which we just referred to on Hurricane Irma, it could take 6 years.
And this process that Paul's talking about of underwriting and looking at the documentation and onboarding with an attorney and beginning the work and order of materials, this is weeks, a couple of weeks. This isn't months. We're moving very expedient in this process.
Well, I mean, it sounds fantastic because to me what it sounds like is that, our roofing company over here is that you guys could just be an extension of us. We found the business. We want the business. we can't handle the business that is, but we still want it.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're a residential roofer and you have some commercial opportunities, we do not want you to run from those. Usually it's the experience, it's the licensing, it's the estimating, it's these things that cause fear in a residential contractor to take that next step. We'll simply partner you with a quality contractor who can take you through that process, and you can be a part of it the entire time.
Yeah, I had somebody that was in one of my networking groups, and he worked for J. Edwards, and great guy. But I also had another friend who owned a restaurant and needed a whole new roof, and I passed them the referral. I connected him, and he did. They couldn't do it.
That's what we are. We're facilitators.
Yeah. So he had to rotate that business to somebody else. But I mean, that would have been a great commission for him if he would have been able to do that
And hold on to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, with some support.
See, I'm greedy. I'm like, this is mine, and I'm gonna keep it. However, I have
That's
to.
not greedy. It's being a businesswoman.
We have that exact scenario playing out in Louisiana right now, where we have quite a few residential contractors that do have access to commercial jobs that they want to do. And basically what they're contracting with the commercial guy to do is to get a portion of that as kind of a sales commission.
Yeah.
And they're also giving an opportunity on site to understand and learn the process, so that they're paying to learn to become a commercial contractor eventually. And we love nothing more than to take a residential guy and show him how to become a commercial contractor.
Oh, I'm sure they probably don't. They're like, oh, they're going to come steal our employees.
And one of the good things is in the industry in general, the concept of subcontractor is widely accepted.
Oh, definitely.
So you don't have to necessarily walk away from the job, but you're no longer the lead, but you still can be involved with every single detail of the job as a subcontractor. And when you work with us, at this point, because we funded the invoice, we now step into the shoes of on the collection side to make sure the funds after it gets paid arrives to us. So what this means is we make sure that there's no funny business at the end of that partnership and making sure everybody gets paid what they're supposed to.
And we're making sure the residential guy still gets to do the commercial roof.
Yeah, it gets paid. All right, we're going to talk more about getting paid when we get back with more Bad Radio. I believe people deserve to get paid for those connections.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what keeps the world running around.
And even if it's so much as somebody says to me, like for example, Melissa introduced me. There's a chamber that's doing a big a festival that's coming up, and they wanted connections with iHeart. Well, I gave them connections to iHeart, right? But I want to be the agency that places their media.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'll connect the dots, but in return, you have to place the media through us so that we get the agency commission.
So we were going after commercial opportunities in Louisiana, and I started reaching out to the residential guys, finding out, these guys are greedy. They do have commercial opportunities. They're just terrified to give that away. Yeah. And so what we did is we partnered with them with a real reputable commercial general contractor, and he's paying them a percentage of the total profit on the job, and he's letting them do the work that's within their wheelhouse that falls under their licensing requirements. And so it's a really neat opportunity for these guys to grow exponentially without having to give up the job.
Right. Curious what kind of pushback you guys get. I don't know if it's something you want to talk about on air, but one of the big things that I always am curious about in industry.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Is like, do you want to talk about that, or what I'm talking about is what are some of the conceptions of like, are they worried they're going to lose a percentage?
People think it's too good to be true.
Okay.
So we
All
love to talk about it's too good
Okay.
to be true.
Okay. Let's do that then.
Perfect.
That it's a scam. Everybody likes.
That,
I was told last week by Paul I have to give $50 million away in Louisiana this year. I have to.
How dare him?
Right.
Welcome back to Bad Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
And welcome back to Bad Radio. This portion of the show is brought to you by Liberty Property Inspections. Your home is one of your most important investments, so don't trust it to just anyone. LibertyPropertyInspections.net, helping you protect your investment. That's another one too. Do you guys work with inspection companies? I'm trying to connect the dots.
Our contractors work with inspection companies. That's a very good source of referrals.
Oh, okay, that's excellent. I'm trying to I put together graphs in my head, like connect the dots as far as who all
overlaps.
Because there's like for us, because Melissa's in a BNI group as well, but they call them like spheres, networking spheres or power spheres, and that's like who's connected to who. That's going to be a referral source for this person. So for you guys, it's like the contractors, the roofers. Now I just realized and home inspectors as well. What are some of the other that we might not just think of? How about HVAC?
Yeah, HVAC guys are a great resource. Warranty maintenance contractors are a good resource. Home inspectors, public adjusters, attorneys.
Plumbers?
Plumbers, absolutely. Plumbers, you get a call, dishwasher overflows. You want to fix the dishwasher. It could be a $50,000 floor loss. You need to be partnering with insurance restoration people on all aspects of it. I have roofers that work with patio installers and pool installers, and they put a ladder up on the roof.
Yeah. Pool installers.
They put a ladder on the roof, and they check and see if there's damage to the roof and reach out to the contractor.
Suppliers of materials, they're a very good referral source as well because they're looking.
How would that work?
Well, the supplier, for example, they're the ones that are actually supplying the materials that's going to go on that roof, for example. And they know what homes they supplied roofs to previously because usually there's a warranty that's attached to it, to that material. So after a storm, unfortunately, most of these homes are not covered by the warranty, particularly Hurricane Ian, where you got 130 mile per hour plus winds. So at that point in time, the supplier, it's in their best interest to keep that customer, not lose them to some other supplier. So they, in turn, can help contractors generate business.
Yeah, one more, if you don't mind, is in the commercial space, when a commercial property has an issue with their roof, they're not always calling a contractor. They call a manufacturer, and they will say, we need this TPO roof or the CPDM roof looked at, and then we want y'all to provide the labor from one of your trusted contractors. So if these commercial guys are partnering with distributors and manufacturers, then that's another wonderful referral source. I actually ride with distributors, manufacturers, and building supply sales reps and go out and speak to policyholders and other contractors who might be interested in the service that we provide.
Okay, so I mean, referral sources, is that the majority of how your business grows? Is one person tells another person? I mean, I met Catherine at a roofing convention, and then I saw you guys I saw you at another seminar. Is that really how you guys do a lot of your business growth?
Most of our growth so far has been organic. It's been other contractors referring us to other contractors because they all look after each other. And also attorneys and other claim handlers, because one of the biggest pressure points for attorneys is the property owner, if they haven't been indemnified yet or the property hasn't been repaired, they're reminded every single day of what kind of bad situation that they're in. And they're calling the attorney, putting a lot of pressure on them. Why isn't my case settling? Well, don't you want it to be like it was before? Or do you want me to call the insurance company right now and get a lowball settlement? So that's where we can come in to empower a contractor to do the work and alleviate that pressure of settlement.
Right. So we talked about this on break too. What are some of the, because it does sound too good to be true. That's one of the things you're talking about. It sounds too good to be true. Is that what a lot of people think, or that it's like some sort of scam?
Yeah, a lot of people, just from the very nature of contractors, right? They're not the ones with the best reputation.
No.
They're not your accountant. They're not your doctor. They're not the folks that a lot of people know horror stories. But the way that our funding program works is we only fund after the work is completed. The cost has been incurred. So, in fact, there are certain barriers that they have to overcome in order to qualify for our funding. So the only way a contractor gets funded is if they deliver on their service.
Okay.
So that's the first step.
There's no way that you're going to pay them and they're going to haul.
There's almost minimal risk that occurs. And secondly, we don't do one-offs, meaning whenever we invest time with a contractor to onboard them with us, the expectation is that the relationship is going to be reciprocal. You're now going to push the business to us as well, and we're going to become partners.
Right.
So that alleviates a lot of these scenarios where somebody's trying to gain the upper hand. We believe in balanced contracts that keeps folks coming back to us. And then from the property holder's perspective, the proof is going to be in the construction. Would you rather?
And lots of times, is a property owner even aware that this relationship?
It's all behind the scenes. It's the contractor that's approaching the property owner saying, I'm going to build this. Most property owners, let's say homeowners, they're not going to ask, what does your line of credit look like? They're not going to ask, what's your financing look like?
Right.
What's your financial structure? They're just going to say, well, I believe him. He's going to deliver. And the proof, again, is going to be when those materials drop and people get the work.
Yeah.
And like Al mentioned before, within 30 to 45 days, that process should start. So at that point in time, you will see results, and the proof will be in the construction.
Okay.
And I'd like to add, in Louisiana, it's been a while since Ida. Actually, we're 3 months from the time limit where you cannot file a claim anymore. It's over with. So a lot of times,
Which storm was that?
Ida.
it was Ida in Louisiana.
Okay.
So on that point, we have a lot of contractors that have been sitting on these jobs that don't have the funding to do them for over a year. So there's a little bit of hesitance from the policyholder on these commercial jobs now to say, when the contractor says, oh, hey, we have a magic bullet now, it's called claim pay. We'll gladly go out and meet with this policyholder and explain our process to them to
Because they're like, wait. How is this
confidence.
happening? What's going on here? Is this like, yeah, okay.
Right?
I
So
get
we'll
that.
sit with the contractor, we'll sit with the attorneys, and we'll explain our part in the process. We're a very hands-on company, and we believe in handshakes and looking people in the eyes.
So, because I think that, like, for me, when I first heard of claim pay, I had the perception of that you guys bought the program, or not the program, but the loan, or it's not even the claim, that you purchased the claim, but that's not the case at all.
Well, what we do is there's companies out there that'll provide funding once a check arrives. It's a very different scenario, right? At this point, you're dealing with endorsements. You've received a check from the insurance company. You know exactly the amount you're going to collect. We, in turn, provide much more value than that. We're going to start at the moment the claim is opened and the damages have been properly assessed.
Okay.
At that point in time, we're going to put our money behind that construction and ultimately the credit of the insurance company, because we know with this policy document, this 30-page document that's impossible for anybody to read. I have a very difficult time, and I look at thousands of these. We know the coverage exists, and that's what a lot of folks don't understand, because they're getting so much pushback from a carrier that they believed and trusted very much because they have a good relationship perhaps with their agent.
Yeah.
And it's outside of the agent's control.
I know.
If it were up to the agent, actually agents secretly love us because they solve their problem. They get that policyholder off their back now.
Yeah.
Because now they get the work started.
Right.
So for these contractors that think our process is too good to be true, we're very happy to provide our referrals as well. That can tell other success stories of contractors that were previously doing $1 million a year and are now doing $12 million a year. Now, is that going to cost you? Yes, of course. we all need to make a profit here.
That's what I'm saying. We're for profit.
But do you prefer the question the contractors need to ask themselves is, do you rather be a $1 million a year contractor, or do you want to be a $10 million a year working the following year to get to 15? Because I'll tell you, the damages are there.
Right. So, all right. Well, I want to continue on this conversation because, like, I like the idea of not being 1 million, but like 15 million. So, all right. So stay tuned. And when we get back, we're going to be talking more with Claim Pay.
Are you interested in getting your business information out on the radio? BaaDRadio.com. BAAD radio.com. Check in.
Are we really at the last segment
Yes,
already?
ma'am.
Jeez. All right. So, you guys, this is our last hurrah. What are some of the things that you want to make sure that we hit?
Last thing, There's no job that's too big for us.
Okay.
There's no job that's too small either,
Really?
up until the law change.
Okay. You want to talk about the law change? I don't know.
The attorneys are better at talking about the law
Yeah.
change than me. It's depressing.
I like the direction that we're going, and I kind of would rather not.
Yeah, I
go
don't
in
want to
that
depress
direction
people.
For the last,
Mm-hmm.
I like.
No matter where you are in the claims process, if it's stalling out, reach out to us and let's see if we can't help with that.
I want to just end on a high note and the
Yeah.
positivities of working with you guys and all that other stuff. I definitely, this last segment though, I want to talk about your growth and why you decided to do that. And then we're going to just talk about really important to get your contact information out. Is Catherine's job? She's a sales
She's our
rep,
marketing.
right?
She's a marketing director.
Okay. But I mean, do you have sales reps like me? Like my job is business development. I go out and I get companies that are going to be advertising in the
Right.
market.
So
and we
Paul's
help
the
them place
boots
their
on the
meetings.
ground in Florida. I'm the boots on the ground in Louisiana. And we have a beautiful office in South Miami. That's our corporate office. We have one in New Orleans as well. But we have staff inside that will take you from a phone call after we meet with you and walk you through the process.
Awesome. All right, let's do it. This goes so
Oh,
fast.
okay.
She's a turd, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
But we love her.
Welcome back to Bad Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
I want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, Bolts Legal. Fear no storm with boltslegal.com. 33 Tanning Spa with locations in Altamont Springs and Longwood. Andrews Law PA, auto accident attorney. AndrewsLawPA.com. And Crazy Muscle Nutrition in Longwood, soon to be Castleberry.
It's coming.
I know, it's coming.
It's coming.
I follow him on social media. As like I said though, I just have to make sure I'm like, all right, does he have his clothes on? All right, I can look at it. It's one of our sponsors. He owns a nutrition shop, and he also is competes in like bodybuilding contests, and so he's continuously posting stuff with him like with no clothes on. But I've known him since he's 10 years old, and I'm just like, okay, I can't. I'm like, no, it's not right. But he's just opening a bigger location for his shop, and it's got like a podcast studio in the background, and we're really happy for him. So that's Crazy Muscle Nutrition.
Yeah.
All right, so we're here with a claim pay, and we're on our last segment. So we talked about a couple. We've talked about it a lot. But what I really want to do right now is talk about your growth and where you guys want to be, or where you're going. Let's just say.
So we're a company that has $1 billion behind us, and we're very fortunate that our investors have stood behind us as the laws have changed.
Are your investors? Are we talking about like banks?
They're institutional investors. So
Okay.
Think of your local police department. They have their own pension fund.
Correct.
They, in turn, invest with a pension fund manager who gives us money to manage on their behalf. So we're fiduciaries. So we're very careful, and we follow very strict guidelines when we decide which contractors to partner with.
Yeah, you have to be, right? Because basically you're fronting the money, and you
So-
got to guarantee that money's coming back.
So we currently have over 100 employees that sit at our offices in Miami, Texas, Louisiana, and in different states.
Right.
So we're not just a fly-by-night company.
Mm-hmm.
We have, we're not, the proof isn't just in the contractors, it's also in our organization.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to provide contractors. And that's one of the things that I get really excited about is seeing the growth of our contractors.
It sounds like you guys have grown very quickly, though.
So we started in earnest. Claim Pay is a new venture that was an extension of an existing business.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The idea was to make it 20 times bigger.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently at 100 times bigger.
I would think so, but based off of the conversation we've had today, but you had a business model to follow, so you kind of knew what to do and what not to do, right?
We had to be very disciplined. We had to make sure that we're not taking any shortcuts. It's very easy to put out money. It's very difficult to say, no, this is a bad investment. So we evaluate many, many contractors each day,
Mm-hmm.
and only a few ultimately are able to work with.
Really?
But
Because
the reason
I was going to wonder about that. Do you guys have to say no a lot?
we unfortunately have to say no, but doesn't mean that that's the end of the conversation with us. We'll empower you whether or not we work together with the right tools.
What would be an example of a time you would say no?
So a time we would say no would be a contractor, for example, doesn't have the proper licensing. One of the things, the industry is very regulated. A roofer has to have very particular licenses in Florida. That roofer that came from Texas has very different requirements. So if that roofer from Texas, which we would do business with them in Texas, comes to Florida, unfortunately, we can't work with you directly. But we're happy to refer you to be part of the infrastructure with a roofer that does have the right license.
Gotcha.
So we're
Okay.
all about making the right connections, and we only grow because we're tied at the hip with our contractors. We own the receivables alongside with them. That would they grow, we grow.
Right.
And that's been the recipe of our success, is setting up our contractors for success.
Right. And so you talked about Louisiana, Texas. So are you currently servicing those areas right now, or is that in you said the next 60 days, I believe you said?
So Louisiana is right now a focus of ours.
Why did you pick Louisiana? Because it's like hurricane capital?
Well,
kinda?
yeah, Al, you can explain the
4 storms in the last 3 years. Laura, Delta, Zeta, and Ida. Billions of dollars in damage. 887,000 claims were filed. There's still 88,000 in litigation right now. People do not have the cash flow or are as monetarily fortunate as South and Central Florida.
Right.
There's a lot of tarps still out there. There's a lot of contractors in dire straits out there. It's the perfect time and the perfect opportunity to get out there and help be a part of the reconstruction efforts in this state that's been devastated.
You know what, I was talking earlier about how my house flooded. So FEMA came out and looked at it because, like I said, I didn't have flood insurance, and we had a lot of damage. And they gave me like $300. I was like, thanks for nothing. But you know, they said that it was livable, right? But I'm like, my walls stayed wet for so long because they wanted like $6,000 to have a mediation company come out and dry the walls, and you couldn't get anybody. Like I couldn't rent the stuff because it was impossible.
Right.
So I applied for an SBA loan, and I drove them crazy until I got it.
Well, imagine if you had partnered with a competent contractor and a mitigation company that would have taken wet samples and things of that nature, and they would have been able to do soil samples and prove that the water intrusion came from above and not from below. And now you're starting the fight with the carrier with competent, reputable people who are setting the stage for the loss instead of having FEMA tell you no, instead of having your carrier tell you no.
Yeah.
because we're not inventing the facts. It's, do you have the right tools to challenge what somebody is telling you is true? Because they're interested.
I had a restoration company come out, and they said that they tried to figure out. They said it was wind driven, but they're like, it came from the ground because we flooded, like Winter Springs flooded, and it was a sunken living room, so it was below. Because I feel that if they figured that if they had a shot at it, they would have gone for it, but I don't think they did. But
Understood.
but yeah, that would have been cool too. And like with the roofing thing I told you about before, I did get the roof, but we had a lot of damage on the inside, which my insurance company told me I had to file a separate claim for, so I was going to have to pay another deductible. And I was like, but now I'm told that nope. If I would have just talked to the right people, they would have had to cover it all. Which like I still have roof damage. I meant like I'm redoing the popcorn ceiling. Anyway,
Right.
So
But now you know.
yeah.
Another aspect that folks miss a lot is windows. For example, windows are very expensive.
Yes.
And it's not as visible when the damages occur as a roof. You may not notice a compromised window for at least 2 to 3 years after the storm, whereas a roof, you'll notice it the next time it's raining. It rains.
Yeah.
So these double thermal pane windows that have that argon gas inside of them, just the vibration of a hurricane will damage those, and over the years they will become foggy. It's unrepairable. And after that filing period, the carrier's going to call it old damage.
Oh yeah.
So it's important to have the proper inspections all the way through, and that's something that we make sure happens when there's a loss.
Right. Is there any point where a homeowner would just call you, like you said, a homeowner would call you direct and be like, "Hey, I've got
Homeowner
this
can
going
call
on.
us
Point me in the
directly.
right direction."
Yeah, they
I've
can
got
do
like
that.
if I'm like, you know what, I want to see if this is something I can take care of. It's an old claim, but whatever. You know what I mean? It's rained. I've got additional roof damage or ceiling damage from it. I could call you and you could send somebody.
You can
or
reach out to
connect
us,
me
and
to
we'll
the right
either
person.
connect you or we will ask you if we can speak with your current contractor, because that's really who we want to operate with. I mean, our ultimate client is the policyholder, but our direct client is the contractor.
Okay, so targets are places of high weather activity, or
Correct.
so like. Did you say North Carolina or up across the eastern?
Eventually, we plan on being all across the Atlantic, but currently we're operating in Florida, Louisiana. In the next 60 days, Texas, California, and right after that will be Colorado and Minnesota. But we do have intentions to expand in other states. The problem is a lot of the other states, though, they don't have quite the same customer protections that Florida, Texas, Louisiana, California, and Colorado has.
That's critical to our growth goals. The growth goals aren't based on how much can we fund and where do we want to go. It's based on what's the treatment from the policyholder's perspective with the Department of Insurance. How can an attorney operate in this environment, and what are the rights? So that's really more paramount to our growth strategy.
Gotcha. So that actually does make a lot of sense, and I see a lot of like. Is Louisiana very similar to? Oh, that's the.
It is similar to Florida, absolutely. The way that the attorneys can operate is very similar.
All right, you guys. Well, thanks for coming in today. So, you guys, this is ClaimPay, and please give everybody the web address again.
Hey, reach out at claimpay.net and see how we can help or to begin a conversation. ClaimPay.net.
Well, thanks for being part of Bad Radio today, and you can get their contact information from me as well, and have a fantastic week.
Snuck up on us at that time.
All right. I will be over in just a second or two.